This is episode 4, and thank you for listening to the Marlene Mish podcast. We haven't done a podcast for almost 2 months. The last one was posted October 8th, and today is December 1st. So a week from today will be 2 months is our last podcast. And our intention was to always try to do these more frequently, but for one reason or another, we haven't done them. But that's no excuse. We're doing them now, and that's what matters. So like we said, we've been in Croatia for more than 2 months.
Yeah, a little over
2.5 months, just about. I think we got here September
28th?
Yeah, September 28th. Because we got to Europe on September 17th, 18th, because you fly over, there's that.
I think it was the 17th.
It was the 17th, but it was, the time changes.
I think we left on the 16th, got here on the 17th, and then you had passed away on the 18th.
On the 18th, right. But when did we check into our Belgium?
I think it was the 17th.
17th?
We slept that night.
Okay. So October 18th was a month, and so almost 2.5. So I think on your birthday, which is in 4 days, it'll be 2.5 months, right?
Sweet.
So 2.5 months in Europe. What have we been doing? That's what we're going to talk about. So when we left Belgium, obviously, if you listen to bonus episode 2, we talked about our cat Yoda passing away, and which kind of changed things a little bit for us. Now we don't have to worry about, where to keep an animal when we're out and about and when we travel without our vehicle. When we're not in the van, what do we do? So we drove across from Belgium all the way to Croatia, and that's what we decided to do because there was one really important thing for us that's unique to us, and I don't think anybody else who travels in Europe, if they ship their car over, will be able to do this unless they have dual citizenship like you do. Right. So Marlene has dual citizenship, and she just got her Croatian passport like literally the week before we got on the flight, and with the kids. So because of that, we're able to travel more freely in Europe. The only difference is, the kids also have it. Through Marlene, the kids were also able to get it. So I'm the only one without EU residency, citizenship. I mean, there's no EU citizenship. Every country is still its own country. They're just free to roam around in every country. So for me, I'm traveling on a U.S. passport, which means there's some restrictions that even though you don't need a visa to go to any EU country, there are restrictions. And namely, they are, this maybe better than me. I can be in Europe in the EU for 90 days, right?
Out of 180.
Out of 180. So it's not like you can just leave on the 90th day and then come back right away for 90 more days. Right. You have to leave for 90 days and then come back on the 181st day.
And then it restarts.
And then it starts over. So you can do that as many times as you want. And it's not consecutive. You don't have to, on day 1, you come into the EU and you get 90 days. Like if you come here for 3 days and leave, then you've only used up 3 of your 90. And if you stay here for 30 days, leave for 30, stay for 30, leave for 30, then you can do that also forever.
That's for Schengen. Is that what you said? You said EU.
EU.
Yeah. No, that's only for Schengen. Schengen is for people.
Right.
So 90
right.
out
Schengen,
of 180.
But what's EU? EU is 90 also, isn't it? Or is it less?
I don't know. It's 6 months for our vehicle. It's not for people, but it's for goods.
Because not every country in the EU is in what's called the Schengen zone, and not every Schengen zone country is in the EU, right? So they're kind of mutually exclusive, but there's a ton of overlap. So you kind of have to do, anyways, in order for us to avoid that sort of dance, to kind of go from country to country, figure out if they're EU or Schengen zone, I'm able to apply for Croatian residency, which before we came here, we did a bunch of research and we figured out what I had to do to get it, which requires a bunch of paperwork. And then being over here, once I entered Europe, I had to come to Croatia within the first 90 days to apply. And once I applied, what we heard was, okay, so once you get your paperwork in there, then you're allowed to stay while you wait for the paperwork to come back. But what was unknown to us is, well, how long does this process take? And can I go in there on day one and then like be applied and able to stay? So it turns out, just like everything, it takes much longer than you think.
They said probably 30 days, like the consulate in the U.S. said, probably 30 days, depending on the season. We're here during the slower season, but when we went there, they quoted us 30 to 45 days.
Right.
And it's been
pretty close.
It's been pretty close. We still haven't got our letter in the mail saying it's time for you to pick up your residency card.
Yeah, so we've been in Croatia a little over 2 months. So we've been in Europe 2.5. We've been in Croatia like since the 28th of October. So a little over 2 months. We didn't apply right away because we didn't have all of our paperwork. We went into the office, which here is the like kind of like the police station headquarters in Split, to apply right away to talk to the person there. So they gave us the application. They told us all the documents we had to kind of gathered, and there was some stuff missing, so we had to get one document sent from California. That was brutally expensive. It was like $150 for like 2 pieces of paper.
Yeah, for like FedEx signature required.
Yeah, so but we had to do it. There was no other choice. I mean, we have other choices. The other choices will be just do the Shenzhen dance, which if we didn't have to do that, we don't want to. So that delayed us for a week or two, I think, just to kind of get that together. And the second we got that paperwork, we went and got passport photos taken. We had like marriage certificate, birth certificate, passports. The thing that they needed to have that we had to get sent over was they wanted to know where we're living. So Marlene's parents have a couple places here. They have a place in the village on the island of Hvar, in a little village called Zastrozište, which we've been spending, I'd say, a little more than half of our time there, and a little less than half of our time here in Split. And in Split, they have an apartment that they bought recently. When they, when they're inching towards their like kind of retirement, they wanted to be able to have a place here so they can travel back and forth more easily. It's about a 2-hour ferry ride, and the ferry, it's if you're just riding the ferry as a passenger, it's pretty cheap. It's like what, $6 a person?
Yeah. And
the kids are half price. So for the 5 of us, it's like right around $20. More expensive if you're going to bring a car. So we don't bring our car. Actually, we have the van in the village now, and there's 2 ways to get on the island. Well, actually, there's more than 2, but the 2 main way. There's one, you drive like a couple hours south of Split. There's another ferry that's only like a half hour. It's really quick, and it's much cheaper. You just have to drive narrow, village, windy,
have your wife cry and
island
cuss.
Road to get there. Yeah. So that's how we got the van there. So we decided to move the van there because Split is kind of it's the second biggest city in Croatia. Croatia's a small country, but Split is, it's a big city for the country, but it's not big by other country standards, bigger country standards. But it's still more difficult to park our van, inside a city. So it's easier for us to take it to the village. There's some spaces there that we can park and feel safe. So we leave it there, and that's why we spend a lot of our time there, because all of our things are there. So once we went over to the village, we kind of enjoy our time, in quiet, living the island life, and kids can run around we don't have to worry about a lot of cars, a lot of people. But the downside too is, there's no stores. Like you have to basically figure out what you're going to need for the time that you're there and bring it there. And if not, you got to drive a half hour to a...
It's kind of like when we're boondocking, kind of out of a way place. And it's just like, oh, well, we're going to be here for a few days, so let's plan ahead. Do we have enough water? Do we have enough food? Do we have enough toilet paper to last us a few days? So kind of village life is kind of the same. You just have
it's kind of like that.
Same mindset.
Yeah, because it's about a half hour to go to a bigger town. And when I say bigger town, it's still kind of a village, just a bigger village that has like a bigger grocery store. And the little convenience store / like hardware store / grocery store / liquor store in the village.
/ bar,
because that's where that's where the only place you can buy a beer, and people just go and buy a beer and stand outside and drink.
There's a little table. Bench.
It's like it's a building that's owned by the government that's leased to people in the village that run. There are two operations there from as far as I can tell. There's that little store, which a woman probably about our age, right, 40s, she runs it, and you can buy drinks, wine, beer. You can buy, there's like 3 good size like freezers, like
for ice cream.
Kind of like top loading freezers that you would have in like convenience stores. And there's like frozen meat, frozen vegetables, ice cream, any kind of frozen stuff. Very limited fresh vegetables. There's onions, zucchini, garlic, and that's probably it.
Yeah.
Right?
And probably half of that is for planting, not for consuming right now.
Right. Right. Because a lot of people grow their own. If you live in a village, you probably grow some kind of vegetable yourself. There's a small like refrigerated section for things like milk and yogurt.
Yeah, a few
eggs,
sliced cheeses.
Some cheeses, small items. And then there's a couple of sections of walls that have like household products like glue, tape, like
one pair of like boots. So
one
if
brand,
you're like a size 10,
one pair of boots, one size.
These
literally
are your boots.
One pair of boots. But then there's things that you might need like scissors or nail clippers.
And the prices are like 10 to 15% more than the store that's half an hour away. So it's more, but it's totally worth the gas. 'Cause gas is so expensive here. It's worth that price increase, I think.
If you need something and they have it there, it's it's best to just buy it there. The only thing that's the same price, if not a little cheaper, is beer. Because I think
weird.
if they try to gouge people on beer price, villagers would be angry.
Riots.
So the only other business that's there, which takes up a larger majority of that building, is a olive oil pressing company. It's a big olive oil press, and I don't know all the parts that are involved. Everyone who lives in the village has olive trees in one place or another, as far as we know, right? So there's a bunch of fields, and some people, not everybody's olive trees that they own is on the same plot of land that they live on. Sometimes they're like, you have to hike out to them, so it's been olive picking season. It's in the fall, so it's kind of winding down. So everybody who picks olives, and we spent a couple days helping out picking olives too. Marlene's family, not her parents' olives that they own per se, but her dad's cousin's olives. So we just want to go help and check it out. So it's pretty cool. They all have olive trees, and they put this big netting down under the tree. So then a bunch of people just go hog wild pulling, olives off of the tree, and you just drop them onto the net. And then they pull up the net, and then they dump everything they get into like a milk crate.
It's like we're locusts, and we're attacking the tree.
Yeah.
We drop all the olives, and then...
Every tree, it's like... There were probably like 8 of us per... Well, and there were 8 of us total, so we'd do one tree at a time.
Yeah.
We probably did a tree in like 10 minutes.
And then you get the net, and then you drop it into a bucket, and then move the netting to the next tree, and just keep going.
Yeah, and then what you do, way back in the day, and it's kind of evident when you're walking around the village that there's all these like olive like pressing equipment. When I say equipment, I mean like rock chiseled into wheels and grooves carved into other rocks.
Cavemen.
Where you like roll those onto olives, and then like the oils drip down into, some kind of jar or whatever. But people don't do that anymore because most people that, people that are there are older folks that retire or don't work, and, the younger people that work have moved out of town. There's really nothing to do except for maybe a couple of things that people do. So for the most part, nobody's doing that like menial labor stuff anymore. So there's that olive oil pressing company that somebody owns. You take all your olives that you've picked from your trees, and then you bring it there, and for a fee, they turn all your olives into olive oil. And olive oil is kind of big business for all the villagers. You can buy a bottle of canola oil, like a liter of canola oil, for like the equivalent of like $1 at the store. Whereas olive oil, it costs like $15. And that's extra virgin, which I'm guessing it's the only kind they have here. They don't do any secondary pressings or anything with these olives. So every bottle of olive oil you get that comes from a village on an island or anywhere around here, I guess they're not exclusively from the islands. Even people here on the mainland have olive trees, I assume.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, it's the currency here, they're not on the euro, so they're on kuna. And right now, $1 is about 6.5 kunas. So they sell a bottle of olive oil for about $15, a little over $15. Well, right around $15, which is 100 kunas is what people charge. 80 to 100 kunas is what people are charging.
I think most importantly is the families make it for themselves because it's such a staple in Croatian cooking. Everything's made with olive oil.
Right, for sure.
Which that's their first things, like how much olive oil do we need for our family for the year, and whatever extra they sell. And
right,
sometimes
and
it's a
good
lot.
Years and bad
yeah,
years.
And sometimes it's a little bit. It just depends on the year. On the
well,
harvest.
that was definitely the initial motivation at the very beginning to have these olive trees and to have these vegetable gardens. And some people have animals, chickens and goats, and there's hog hunting, and what else they hunt? They hunt pheasants
and rabbits
on the island, and yeah, that's all sort of a subsistence style living that they had way back in the day. Obviously it's not so much reliant on that anymore, but it still happens. And because the trees still produce and there's less people living in the villages, yeah, there's probably a little bit more of selling of the oil to like restaurants and tourists and people that live in the city that don't grow and pick. But people that do live there, yeah, they still use it. They use, like last year, I guess, was a pretty bad year for olives. And they had a very low volume production. So I don't think they had enough to sell. So they used them all. So that's part of the thing that we did, which was cool. Yeah, so let's go back to the residency papers thing. So we went and turned our papers in. We were concerned because we had one document, which is the marriage certificate, and it was supposed to be like, we got it translated, which was required. Mm-hmm. So we had to get that done. And then the lady at the translation place says, oh, you don't have this stamp, this Apple Steel stamp that you're supposed to have, which we can't, there's no way that we can get it. That's another thing that we would have had to gone back to the U.S. to do, or hopefully have somebody there, maybe your mom or somebody do it for us. So we took a chance, just brought it in, and they didn't ask.
There was a part of a stamp on there from when I did my Croatian citizenship. So
right.
They saw like half a stamp, and maybe they thought
it was done.
Here. The thing with like foreign countries, like even when we went to Mexico, very concerned about stamps. Like I think if we had
stamps means everything's legit.
I think if we just bought a bunch of random stamps and just stamped a bunch of papers, I think we might be good here, Dan.
Maybe that's a service that we can offer.
Side business.
So stamps, you know, as long as you got a stamp, or get like a little stamp kit. Nowadays with these, you know, like CNC machines and laser cutters and 3D printers, you can make legit looking stuff. But anyways, we brought it in. They didn't ask. So, you know, we thought we were good, which we still are as far as we know. We don't have the actual, like, residency card yet. But we turned it in, and we got the receipt back from the lady at the police station saying, okay, this is the document you need. You can stay here until you hear an answer from us. So we got through that part about 3 weeks ago, maybe longer,
maybe
3 or 4 weeks ago. So we got through that part. So now I am legal to be able to stay here. Oh, the other thing that she asked us was like, oh, you're supposed to come to the police station within 48 hours of you arriving in Croatia to register, which I said we were here, because that's when we went in there to ask her what we needed to do. We were there. We talked to the exact same lady, and she didn't ask me to register. And then we went to the tourist office to ask her, or ask the other lady there if I needed to do such a thing. And she said, oh, no, you're good. You don't have to do it. But when we went back to turn our paperwork, and she's like, you're supposed to be here 48 hours after you entered, and you didn't. We explained to her. I guess it's not required after all, because she said it, and then she just kind of let it go. Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
So the next thing we knew, once we got that turned in, about 2 weeks after, we got a call, and it was another person from the police department saying, hey, I got a request for you to apply for residency. I need to interview you. I don't know anything about you. You need to come in and talk to us, blah, 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 whatever. So we were in the village, so we took the ferry back and went into the police station, talked to this other person, which lasted no more than like 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
And that was about 2 weeks ago. And since then, at the end of that, the guy said, okay, you guys are good. Just wait for a letter in the mail. And when that letter comes in the mail, it means it'll be ready. The card will be ready for you to pick up. So as far as we know, we're at the end of it. The only thing we're waiting for now is the approval letter saying that the card's ready, and then we'll go pick it up. Then we can go wherever we want. Right now, we're kind of stuck in Croatia because while we're applying for residency, we're not sure if we're allowed to leave the country during this process. We're just not, just in case there's some reason why we shouldn't.
And we don't want to ask to, like, bring up any red flags.
Right.
Like, it just...
Right, because what we told them is that, hey, we're moving to Europe, or we're moving to Croatia for a couple of years, and we want to travel around a little bit.
Right.
Which is true.
Right.
So that sort of is the process of us kind of going through this application for residency, and also why we're here, why we're still here for so long. And the thing is, now we're coming to December, temperatures have finally dropped, and it's not freezing. It's not literally freezing by any means. We haven't had any snow or like ice on the road or anything, but it's gotten cold. It's colder than what we're used to anyways, you know.
So we chased the 75-degree weather year-round, and we wear flip-flops almost every day of the year. So it's to not be able to wear flip-flops and not to be able to chase the 75-degree weather, it's a little different for us.
We packed pants, shoes, jackets, thinking that we're never going to use them.
Yeah, we hid them really far deep in the van.
Right, and we're using them every day, all the time, actually.
Dan is wearing
a wool sweater
right now,
pants and socks, which for those of you that know me knows that this never happens.
Yeah.
So we, have properly hit winter. And I know that it's much more wintry for a lot of you that live in other places, but this is winter for us. But what I was saying too about December is that now that we're in December, if we get the residency card and the green light to kind of leave Croatia in the next week or two, like, do we leave? Because then we'll be, at least in Split, we have family and relatives and people that we know. We're coming up on Christmas and New Year's. Like, do we want to be in Montenegro, Albania, Greece, where we don't know anybody during the holidays? Or do we want to kind of stick around here? Personally, I'm ready to go, but I think it's tough.
Yeah, it can go either way. I'm ready to go too.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. We'll see how long it takes.
And right, and we just, like always, we decide as a family.
Well, but also usually this time of year we're with family. You know, right. For the last 10 years, we've only been away from family once, maybe, during Christmas.
Yeah, we try to plan our route around the U.S. and Mexico and things around Christmas time.
I think in 2012, we spent Christmas and New Year's in the Florida Keys.
Yeah, Luca's first Christmas.
Yeah. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. And if that letter doesn't come for a couple of weeks, then I think most likely we'll stay. If it shows up tomorrow, then we got some decisions to make. So that's that's what we've been doing. But also, since we've been here for so long, we've done a few things. Outside of just going to the village, picking olives, and our friends Jason and Angela and their son Bodie obviously were here with us for probably about a month.
Yeah, maybe 5 weeks.
Yeah, a little more than a month. So they went back at the beginning of November, and they have this commitment in Colorado where their son likes to do this ski team thing at Winter Park. So they're there basically from Thanksgiving until like almost Easter. Mm-hmm. And so they were here for as long as they could, and then they went back. While they were here, we did a 7-day bareboat charter on a 38-foot sailboat. Mm-hmm. This is really cool. This is sort of towards the beginning of our stay, like second or third week after we got to Croatia. We got this opportunity to do this. And if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, I have 5 videos that are on the channel that sort of, went into a little bit more detail about what we did and the places we went. And obviously, it's a video, so you can kind of watch. There's a tour of the boat. There's a bunch of drone shots for the locations that we were at and things that we did while we were there. So that was really cool. 38-foot boat is not a huge boat by any means, especially for 8 people. But this is a newer 2016 Beneteau Oceanus 38-foot sailboat. It was a 3-cabin layout, so we actually had plenty of space. I was really surprised how comfortable we were.
The funny thing is, like, you've always wanted to do the Croatian islands and sail the islands. Every visit you have. And so when our friend Boswells were here, we said it out loud, like, oh, it'd be so nice if we can just all go together. And we were just joking around at this exact table. And the next morning we wake up and we have this email from Orvis Yachting. It's like, hey, would you guys be interested in taking one of our boats out? Or one of our, stay at one of our houses for a week? We're like...
Yeah, it was Orvis Yachting / Orvis Villas.
Yeah.
So Orvis is one of the bigger companies in Croatia, and I think it's one of the few charters that go out of Split. So where their fleet of boats are is actually walking distance. You can see them from our window almost at the apartment in Split. And most of the other charter companies are out of this littler town outside of Split called Castella. And our friend who lives in Split, Sala, he works there, or he works at one of the charter companies during the season. So we had asked him like the day or two before about, hey, what's the off-season rates for chartering a boat? Like, what do you need and all that? and he was going to look into it, and then this opportunity came up. There was no money in it for us, so it wasn't a paid gig by any means, but they did offer us a 7-day bareboat charter. Actually, they didn't offer us that. They offered us a 1-day like skipper captain, cruise around the islands, or stay at a villa
for a week.
Yeah, for a week, and they just wanted us to like post an Instagram photo or something. But instead, I responded and countered with a different sort of offer, which is, hey, we love to take a bunch of photos for you that you guys can use for your marketing stuff, and put a bunch of YouTube videos and write a blog post. And realistically, these are things that we would do anyways. So, they were into it. So they were, let's figure out what we can do. So it took a couple days for us to kind of figure out what size boat they can offer and when we can do it. Timing worked out perfectly.
The weather worked out perfectly.
And the weather was a huge, huge thing because October, anything can happen, So especially here, like the weather that we've been having this last month, which is rain, wind, cold. 3 or 4 days ago, like it snowed on the higher peaks of these islands. When we looked out the window, we saw snow, which, we were way too low, too close to the water to get it where we are. But there's definitely like some frost overnight. But October, like I said, it could go either way. And then we got it on the good side. It felt like summer. There were some winds, but there were a couple of days where we had some decent afternoon winds for sailing, which we did. But other days, we were probably motoring when we're going from shorter, if we're just going a short distance from one bay to another bay, we just often motored. But it was so calm. It was so warm. It was sunny. And, it was just really lucky.
Yeah, and we got to dip into the Adriatic every day.
Yeah. And it was off season. That's the other beautiful part, too. Because it's off season, we had summer-like weathers that had hardly any crowds. The city of Hvar, on the island of Hvar, is a really popular place. And if you go to one of our YouTube videos, you'll see, sort of the place where we were able to tie up to a mooring ball. In this middle of summer, you would literally not be able to get into the bay. It's so crowded. And there's like mega yachts like anchored in the middle of like 2 islands because, you just can't get in. And it's so crazy busy. It's loud. It's people everywhere from all over the world now. When we were last here, it was 2011. Mm-hmm. So that was when Mila was like not even 2 years old. And it's changed a lot since we were last here. 2011, I think we were here for like 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And feels like everything cost about twice as much as then. 2011, Croatia wasn't part of the EU yet. So a lot of things have changed because of that transition, and because it's gotten more popular, things have gotten way more expensive. But for the way we live, it's still pretty cheap. And if you can kind of figure out where locals shop and where the locals go, you can still live here relatively inexpensively. And we are, the times that we're kind of spending here waiting for our paperwork, like we're spending very little money. To be comfortable. The big thing is like we don't go to the touristy places. We don't go eat at fancy places. We're not going to the bars and spending money, partying or anything. We're going to the grocery store, buying food and cooking it here. And we're not driving. We can just walk from the apartment to the downtown. We can take Uber here in Split. They actually have Uber here, and it's all the taxi drivers. They don't have the thing like in the U.S. where taxi's a taxi and Uber's an Uber. All the taxis drive Uber.
Everybody's everything.
Yeah. So it's still pretty inexpensive here for us, but things are definitely different than it was in 2011. But once we got back from the boat, that's when we took our friends Jason and Angela to the village, spent some time there. We really enjoyed our time, and then about a week into their visit, we took another ferry to the island of Vis.
Right.
Which is, so Marlene's dad is from the village that we go to and stay at most of the time over here. And where we stay in that village is the house where he grew up. And it's the house that Marlene's grandparents built, like stone by stone with a donkey. Right? I mean, that's not a joke.
It's not a joke. It sounds like it's a joke. But
it sounds like a joke, but it's not a joke. They don't have heavy equipment. It's like heavy stones.
Yeah.
So they use a donkey to help them carry it. The island of Vis is an island probably about double or triple the distance on a ferry. Takes, well, maybe not triple. I think it takes maybe 4 hours to get there compared to 2 hours to get to the village on Hvar. So Vis is 4 hours. It's about a third of the way across the Adriatic. Like if you're going all the way to Italy, which is on the other side, it's a third of the way across that sea. So it's one of the further islands out there. It's a smaller island, less people, but Marlene's grandma on her mom's side has a place there, a really tiny place, in the city of Comija.
Right. Really small. The kids were like, they're used to small spaces, but not like rickety, dusty.
Yeah, it's not so much the size.
No, it's the spookiness.
The spookiness, and also
we were there for Halloween, so it made it extra spooky.
Right. We have another video. Our actually last video is the most recent video on our YouTube channel is that the Halloween that we spent on the island of Vis in the town of Comija, which is cool. It rained. We were there for like 3 days, maybe 4 days. Mm-hmm. It wasn't super comfortable for us. It's not so much that the space is small. We're used to that. But in that small space, there's like a big bed and like two mattresses that take up pretty much the entire floor space. We all slept in the same room. The walls are like chalky. Crumbly and chalky. Like if you rub up against it, you get your clothes would be just white from it.
Everything's made out of stone, and then it's like painted or plastered, and then when the stones are wet,
sealed.
It's not sealed.
Yeah.
Because I think it needs to breathe. Maybe. Right. Anyways, when it rains, it loses its properties, you know.
And the other weird thing is you sleep on the third or fourth floor on the top of this like 4-story building, and the bathroom is down the bottom on the first floor. And it's not even like the same floor. Like it's like another door has a separate entrance from the street, from the alley. So you come all the way down, you go around the corner in the alley, and then you open this other door, and that's where the bathroom is. And it's also where the kitchen is, except the kitchen has no kitchen. It's just the counter with a table. There's no sink. There's no stove. There's
in
no
the middle of being redone.
Yeah, right. The person who was helping her mom redo it, like, passed away as he was working there. Not literally. Not like hammering a nail and then like falling over, but
no, but time, very recently, and things stopped.
Recently.
So
right, so it didn't get done. So when we were there, we were eating kind of like sandwiches or
going out
to eat.
There's no refrigerator either.
Oh yeah, there's.
But luckily, it was cold enough where we can leave like cold cuts out and nobody got sick.
Not there, right? Yeah, I got sick for like 5 days recently, but this was on the other island village. So we did that, and this is kind of like the circle that we do every time we're here. I've been here 4 times now, and obviously all 4 times that I've been here, Marlene's come with. Before that, Marlene used to come here a lot when she was a kid, and she came here a couple of times since she's graduated high school, and between high school and like, you know, when she started bringing me over. You probably went twice during that time?
I think so.
Because in the early 90s,
There was a war.
there was a war, so people weren't traveling here.
Right.
So there was a break there. But before that, before the war, you guys used to come.
Right.
So, yeah, that's pretty much what we've been doing for these last 2.5 months. I mean, the difficult things about living in Croatia is it's part of the EU, but there's different levels of being the EU. So it's the EU. It's not in the Schengen zone for now. It's going to be soon, and it borders non-EU countries, and also borders countries. I don't know exactly what the terminology is, but when you drive across other EU countries, there are no visible borders. You just drive right through. Before you know it, you're in another country. But come to Croatia, you actually cross a border crossing. You show your passport, they stamp it and scan it, and the whole deal. I think that's because the border between Croatia and Bosnia isn't what they would consider secure.
Right.
So they need to have some kind of border. They had to enforce that border between, like, we came through Slovenia when we drove down here. So, and maybe because of the Schengen thing too, that they wanted the people to show passport, and so they can prove that you came in and out. So, and it's also because it's a smaller country, it it doesn't really get, even in the city of Split, which is the second biggest city, like, we can't find a lot of things that we want here. And when we do, they're very expensive because import taxes are very high.
Yeah, it's crazy here. It's like the highest tax country in Europe.
25% value-added tax.
This little country of less than 4 million people.
And there's some things that you just can't find whatsoever. And there, in other EU countries, like if you just go across to Italy, you can order stuff from Amazon Germany or Amazon UK and like free delivery.
Or eat at Taco Bell. Taco Bell, man. There's a Taco Bell like 400 miles away as the crow flies in Italy. But nothing remotely resembles that here. We've been trying to find cilantro so we can make our own Mexican food. Yeah, in the summertime, people grow cilantro, so it's not a big deal.
Not a lot of people, but some people. Right, so you can find parsley.
Right, parsley all
place.
Day long, yeah.
All day long. Where do they grow that?
Right.
Somebody must grow it.
Yeah.
So it's a similar type of plant. So if you can grow parsley, you can grow cilantro.
Right.
I mean, somebody may correct me, but that's my very rudimentary farming knowledge.
Farmer Dan.
So we can find... obviously, the basic stuff: onions, tomatoes, garlic,
tortillas now in
salt,
every
pepper.
store.
Tortillas everywhere. Yeah,
that's good.
They import that in from Spain, I think. The only ingredient that's missing is cilantro. If you want to make a good salsa or like Mexican food, cheese. You can't find a large variety of cheese here. Like, we were super happy the other day when we found a store that sold cheddar cheese.
Right, we started shredding our own.
Yeah, but. Like, the things that you miss, you just don't expect to miss. Like, jalapeno peppers. I was looking for jalapeno peppers just so I can make, like, nachos or something. And to make, like, a roasted tomato salsa. And it's like, you can't make a roasted tomato salsa without cilantros. So, we went to a whole bunch of places looking for that. And also, like, I want to find, like... In the U.S., you're spoiled with how good beef, like the varieties of beef, the different cuts of beef, like how good the quality is. Basically, any other country in the world doesn't have that quality of red meat. Here in Croatia, they eat a lot of chicken, a lot of pork, they have beef, but definitely way more expensive, and it's very, very lean beef. There's like hardly any marbling in the meat at all, so it's kind of dry and tough, and you can't really just like,
Can't get a fat cow.
get a ribeye. Yeah, because they're, I think for the most part they're grass fed, and I think people that know grass fed beef, it's like it's much leaner. The grain fed cows the cattle is much fattier, and that's what the fatty like choice cuts and prime cuts come from.
But also, like, you can see, like, in America where a lot of people are obese.
Yeah, of course.
And you have fatty foods, you have fast food on every corner, whatever you want to eat for cheap. We hear it's hard to eat for sure. There's no fast food like we wanted to. McDonald's is expensive.
The fast food, the local fast food, there's a place downstairs right around the corner. It's called Popeyes. And it's literally, they have picture of Popeye the Sailor Man on their logo. I'm sure it's
totally
not licensed. But, that's their like local fast food chain. There's 2 or 3 of them around here that we know of. It's like a panini sandwich. And they make like pizzas in the oven, and they make quote unquote hamburgers. By their hamburger meat, for the most part, at least traditionally, when they say a hamburger, it's like a sausage. It's like a mixture of beef and pork.
It's kind of like a McRib.
Nothing like a McRib, actually.
You should put some barbecue sauce on it and pickles and call it a day.
There's this Bosnian dish called cevapcici, which is like a sausage without the casing, and we've seen it called Croatian or Bosnian skinless sausage, but then most recently we've seen it called sausage fingers,
meat fingers,
which is new to us. But that's like the traditional like street food, and they sell this kind of pastry, a lot of pastries, like burek is also a Bosnian dish. There's not a lot of like traditional Croatian dish. A lot of it's like from Bosnia. A lot of it's from other Balkan countries.
Croatia's a new country, so it was like the Turkish Empire came from the south, and the Roman Empire. You had Austria-Hungary, all these different cultures, and it's kind of Croatia kind of just...
Yeah, if you want to imagine Croatian food, it's like a mixture of Italian and Turkish.
Right.
So Greek, a lot of meats, pasta,
potatoes,
bread, potatoes.
It used to be a lot of fish, but fish is so expensive to buy. Like, we can't afford to buy the fish here.
No,
Unless
think people eat like anchovies and sardines. Like the fish that... Basically, the fishermen go out fishing and they sell the fish to the Japanese. There's a tuna farm out here in the Adriatic. It's big.
Oh, that was like one of the Anthony Bourdain videos that we watched.
If you guys watch No Reservations, go look for No Reservations Croatia. So Anthony Bourdain, may him rest in peace, came to Croatia, and it was a great episode. If you haven't seen it, go look for it. He visited one of these tuna farms, which they just have tuna like swimming in giant circles, encased in like this netting. And, they grow up as big as you can see them, like in these Japanese fish markets, 60, 70, 80 pound tunas. And all that goes to Japan. And in fact, when we were on our sailing trip, the first night we were on this town, this little port town of Milna on the island of Brač. We got out. When we got there, we just walked around. We saw these people like hanging out, drinking, singing songs. They were there for an olive harvest.
Right.
They're getting ready to go pick olives the next day. So the night before, they were hanging out. And we're talking to the cook or the chef that works at that place. And he said, oh, yeah, they're here to pick olives. We caught a 60-pound tuna. We're like, 60-pound tuna? How'd you get that? I was like, oh, yeah, I probably got loose from one of these farms. And we just happened to catch it. So you don't find that anymore, Yeah, I mean, this is the Dalmatia coast and all these islands. There's like 1,000 islands along the coast. And it's really unique in the Adriatic and the Mediterranean as a whole because outside of these islands, outside of Dalmatia and outside of like the islands in Greece, there are no like archipelagos like this, all over.
Right.
I mean, you can just go to so many islands from here, halfway into the Adriatic on the Croatia side. Not really on the Italy side. Italy, you have like these big islands like Sardinia and Corsica and all these other islands that are off of the coast of Italy. But on the Croatia side, there's a whole bunch of smaller. Some of them are pretty big, but many of them are small. So that's why sailing here is really good. But it's also very unique, the coastline. But that's why fishing was the way of life around here. Until I guess the population's been decimated.
Yeah, I'm sure overfishing. The Croatians like to blame the Italians, and Italians like to blame the Croatians for the overfishing in the Adriatic.
I'm as long as they got somebody else to blame, then people can keep doing it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the struggles that we have. The kids love Panda Express. I know some of you are making faces right now because, yes, I'm Chinese, and Panda Express is not real Chinese food, but they love it. I don't not love it, especially when you hear and all you can think about is like food. Like, obviously, nowhere near an In-N-Out burger. Like, we haven't been near an In-N-Out burger since Arizona.
Right.
Panda Express, we looked up some copycat recipes, so I was able to make orange chicken for the kids. That came out really good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Broccoli beef, which is Luca's favorite, that came out almost exactly the same.
He just wants the broccoli, not the beef.
Right, so I can load up on the extra broccoli. Right. And then, I make...
Maybe sweet and sour pork.
Sweet and sour pork, that needs work.
Yeah, that need to work.
That need to work because we don't have the ingredients. We didn't
even have pineapple.
We made this in the village, so we didn't have a store to go pick up ingredients. So we had to sort of make do with what we have. Oh, we can't find cornstarch here, which is like shocking to me. They do a lot of pastries and baked goods. No cornstarch. I was able to find potato starch, and I was able to find baking soda, but no baking powder. Right. Which is really weird. So if you want to make like a specific texture baked good, like a cake or a brownie or a cookie, and you want it to like have a certain density or a fluffiness, like that gets tricky because you don't have baking soda or baking powder to kind of give you those advantages when you're cooking. So I'm substituting basically flour for cornstarch in all these recipes. It gets a little tricky, and sometimes it feels a little grainier in your mouth than it should. But if you just use a little imagination, it tastes pretty good.
You've been doing a great job, Dan.
Well, thanks.
Making everybody happy.
But yeah, so that's been helping. No Taco Bell. No good Mexican food either. Like Ava's favorite sort of fast-ish food place is Rubio's. And there's nothing I can do. Like with Panda, there's some like Asian ingredients at stores that you can buy. You can buy sriracha, not the Rooster brand, but you can buy sriracha made in the UK. That's similar. You can buy oyster sauce. You can buy soy sauce. You can buy sesame oil. I haven't been able to find sesame seeds. You can buy... What else have we been buying? Oh, we found a health food store that sold miso paste.
Oh, yeah.
So they've been craving miso soup. These things you take for granted. Like, this is super expensive to buy.
There's one sushi place in Split. Maybe they have miso soup.
There's also a taco place
in
Split that's supposed to be really good.
We just haven't been eating out. It's just so expensive for 5 people.
Yeah, and it's...
Like in
the touristy town, so they kind of gouge at the touristy places.
Yeah.
So we try to make it ourselves. But what we really want to do is go into go into that sushi place and ask him like, where do you get your fish? I'll go into the taco place and say, hey, where do you find cilantro?
Yeah. Spill your secrets.
Yeah, so I'm looking at like photos on their Google Map thing, and like I'm not seeing cilantro in their food.
We should walk by tomorrow and take a closer look.
Yeah, so that's a struggle, and we're just making do. Because in the U.S. you have the advantage of Central and South America growing a lot of the foods that we want to buy in the U.S. even during the off season. And then we have the advantage of like California being so far south. The other thing that's different, if you haven't spent a lot of time in Europe, is geographically Europe is way far north than the southern part of the U.S. Even the southern part, like the furthest south that you can get in Greece or Portugal, is still just barely halfway down California. Like you don't get the same latitude of like San Diego, LA until you get into Africa.
Right.
So all of Europe is way north of that.
And it's so hard to import up here.
It's hard to import in Africa where they may have the weather, they don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the infrastructure like we do in Central and South America as far as farming. So they don't grow stuff like mangoes and papayas and stuff like that you could easily import from Mexico,
Right, all year round.
Yeah, Central America, all year round for super cheap. Mm-hmm. So if you want to find that kind of stuff here, it gets imported in from Central and South America, and it's crazy expensive if you can even find it. And because of that, there's no market for it.
Right. Who can afford it?
Anybody who wants to use that are just people like us. That's very few and far in between. It makes no money for somebody who decides to open up a shop that sells that.
Right. It's going to go bad before they sell it.
Yeah. So that's why that doesn't exist, which is a bummer. But we'll see what happens when we leave Croatia, because I suspect when we go to bigger countries like Italy or Spain or France or Germany, there will be enough people that want those ingredients that it's worth it for them to import it into like Asian markets or Mexican markets and places like that.
So we'll have to wait and see once you get your paperwork, Dan. Hurry up, Croatia.
It's coming soon. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything for what we've been doing for the last little over 2 months.
Yeah, just hanging out, dealing with all this stuff.
Yeah, and we have plans to do several videos, so to kind of show you guys sort of day in the lives of the places that we go. So what we do when we're in Split, we'll show you guys sort of places that we shop and how we like walk into town and things that we do there. We have our favorite ice cream guy, and ice cream is a thing that the kids remember, or the girls anyways. Luca's never been here until this trip. The girls remember coming here, going down to the waterfront and buying ice cream. And I was worried that it was going to be like a summer only thing, but
it's not.
It's December and he's still selling ice cream, so that's good news. So yeah, we'll show you guys all that in our upcoming YouTube videos. If you guys aren't subscribed to our channel, go to youtube.com/MollyMish to subscribe. And if you guys aren't subscribed to our podcast yet, it's mollymish.com/podcast is where we're posting them. But they're also on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and several other podcast directories that essentially like crawl those directories to list our podcasts. So we would appreciate it if you guys subscribe. And if you guys, have other friends that are into travel, either domestically or internationally, feel free to share our podcast with them. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions that you want to ask us about, any of the stuff that we've talked about, feel free to send us an email or just comment in our comments on all of our social channels. We'll be happy to answer them. If you have any ideas of future episodes that you'd like us to do, we'll be happy to do them. Do you have anything to add?
No, you're looking at me. I don't have anything. I'm done talking, Dan.
All right. Marlene's done talking. She was saying earlier before we started the podcast that I don't think we're going to do a podcast tonight because my the beers I had during dinner is wearing off.
Need some liquid courage.
Yeah. Well,
and now I'm tired.
But she's getting better. Well, thank you guys for listening to episode 4 of the Marlene Mish podcast. And I promise we will be back with another episode much sooner than 7 weeks from this one. Right? Should I make that promise?
No. Don't make
I want
promises,
to make
but...
that promise. We should be doing these much more frequently, especially when we start to travel, when we leave Croatia. I think we should at least talk about the places that we're going. You know,
right.
and the trials and tribulations of, going south is different because there'll be a lot more border crossings.
And will be more of a travel routine. So we'll get to a place and everything will be new and exciting and we'll want to talk about it. Right now we're kind of
it's sort of, to us anyways, it's routine and mundane.
Right.
Even though it's not by
right.
any means.
Right.
But, we're gonna find things that we think are interesting, and obviously I think you guys will think it's interesting too, even while we're here, to share that with you. So we're going to try to do as much as we can an episode every 1 or 2 weeks. So keep the suggestions coming, keep the comments coming, and definitely if you want a special episode topic, go ahead and send them to us. And if we sort of envision maybe also doing some interviews as well with other people that travel. So if you know anybody that you like us to interview, or if you guys are doing something cool and you want to talk to us about it, ping us as well. So, that's it. That was episode 4. I want to thank you guys for listening and spending your time. And I don't know if you're listening to this at work, in your car, sitting at home, wherever you're listening. We appreciate it, and hopefully this audio quality is good, and we will try to improve in every way that we can.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.